everybody, welcome to Facebook Live with Ernie Kirk and Athena Clarkin. Today we will interview Athena, tell some stories, and this is all to get you guys ready for Athena's seminar on November 7th. It's a Saturday. We will be hosting a seminar at our school in Westchester, and it'll also be live via Zoom from 12 to 3. And we're really excited to be able to bring you someone with the background, the skill, the credentials, the networking, just the mentorship that Athena has for almost everyone who trains here at Kirk's and for many of us within the KMU family. So if you are in the area on November the 7th from noon until 3, we'll have an Athena's Greatest Hits type of seminar. So if you have anything that you're looking to learn from her, why don't you go ahead and let us know today, and we can see if Athena would be up to working it into the curriculum. As Ernie just mentioned in the background, if you are unable to be here live in Westchester, we will be Zooming it. So we'll have the live Zoom feed. Once you register, we'll be able to get you that link, and even if you can't watch the Zoom live, we'll have it recorded and we can send you a link to that. So Athena has a wealth of knowledge. We get to benefit from it every day here in Westchester, and it's a special event to be able to bring it to you all. All right, so hi Alex, hey Todd, welcome everybody who's watching. I'm going to go ahead and flip the screen around for the main event. That is Athena Clarkin.
Todd!
All right, guys, you're on. Todd said, let's go. Hello, fam. Ernie and Ann Athena.
What's up, Todd? What's up, Alex? So, I'm here with Athena. Probably the person I've known the longest since I moved up here.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here. We've met doing judo in Edgewood. In Joe Candello. What year was that?
I don't know. 97?
No, it was before that. So.
How did you get
We
here?
started
95.
teaching it was 95, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's
Time flies.
she's a little old, so bear with us. So Athena has a huge background in martial arts. And we're gonna talk about this a little bit. Like, why don't we start off with, tell us about your martial arts background.
Well, it's funny, I got into martial arts because my dad told me I couldn't do it. When I was very young, I wanted to do karate, and my dad, being a Southern father in Texas, said it wasn't proper for young ladies. So I had to wait until my 20s to start. So I didn't start martial arts until I was around 22, 23. And when I did, it was like a fish to water. I just couldn't get enough of it. There was so much to learn, and I was so bad at it. It was true. I mean, they just used to leave me in the corner with 2 other guys to break something and see if we'd come back.
Wait, that's the same now.
It is, pretty much. But sometimes other people. But the thing is, though, is so I wanted to learn everything I could because I was so bad at it. I didn't know if I'd ever be good or what, but I liked it so much. And so I would train 6 days a week, just as much as I could, and for hours and hours on time. And then I would go home and train too, because they always said, you don't actually learn it in class. You have to go home and practice it to actually learn it and to have it embedded into your brain and your body. But I started it with a traditional Okinawan system called under Jukokai, which was Rod Sakanowski. He studied over in Okinawa, and you can track the lineage to that system. I did that mostly, traveled all over the country training with him in seminars and
Track
stuff.
it.
It goes back to the lineage of actually the palace of in Okinawa, and so it's one of those things that he created some systems of it that are more advanced too, also like with combat ki and stuff like that. But it was the traditional karate weapons throws that we did, and the throw system was called Poide, P-O-I-D-E, which was not competition at all. It was, throw and then lock them down. And so it was interesting because I had trained in that for so long, and that's all I knew. So when I moved up to Pennsylvania, I just started knocking on doors. I did Goju, I did Ishinru system, I did, you name it. I was like knocking on the door going, can I come play with you? It was kind of interesting. I took all these different Aikido systems because there are different, and I thought I have to learn at some point in time, hard always has to go soft. So I was knocking on every door for Aikido to see, what they did differently. And I stumbled on some really strange systems of different kinds. I've done Kali, I've done a little Muay Thai, I've done BJJ. But you find out what works for you. And they used to say, jack of all trades, master of none. But it's like, hey, this works for you and it actually resonates with you, and you put that in your toolbox. And then, when I met you in Krav, it was like...
Well, knocking on doors. I met Athena doing judo. And we were doing judo in Edgemont with Joe Condor. And Tim Carpenter was there, Brad Court, judo Mike. Carlo, yeah. But when you knocked on my door at my karate school in Casper, you're like, hey, hiya, I know you. Do you guys spar? Yes. Do you spar full contact? Yes. Like, do you punch each other in the face at all? Full contact? I mean, that's full contact. Yeah. People say they do, but they don't. And you were like, you had like a list of questions you were asking me. I was like, just come in, try it. Okay. And she hasn't left.
20 some odd years ago. Because I'd go to schools and they'd say, oh yeah, we do full contact. And it was like, no, you can't hit, anywhere but center mass and things like that. And I did an Aikido school that everything was from a sword strike. I was like, when do you get to hit somebody? And, so I did Aikijutsu, Aikido, just knocking on doors, seeing what was out there. Because I also wanted to learn, more than I knew. It was like, how do you, it's like opening up an encyclopedia and saying, what do you do here and how do you do it? And somebody told me, you cannot judge it unless you can do it. And so that was kind of like, that was my learning experiences until I ended up with you.
And still, we've done a lot together.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And the thing is, though, it's great is you've always pushed my boundaries. Because coming from traditional systems, there were certain ways that you did or you acted or you spoke or, your presence was in the school. Whereas, with what you teach was everything's outside the box. That, what can you bring? Because it doesn't matter how polite you are. It just matters if you can you save yourself from the situation. And that's too. That's really good.
It's okay. It's mostly adults. So I have a question I think everyone else has. Glenn, I'll get back to that.
Hi, Glenn.
Combat key. I've known you for so long. That's a throat punching and everything else. But I still don't fully understand what it is. And I do that because, guys, I just haven't seen it. I've done it. I've seen people punch Athena as hard as they could in the throat, in the abdomen, in the arm, kicks, punches, elbows. And she's like, oh, that was nice. Go a little bit harder, a little bit harder. I had an instructor, Jason Mark, that told his whole class that they could punch you in the throat for a quarter.
Yeah, so they'll bring in quarters every week that I was there. They bring in quarters.
So tell us about Combat Key.
Combat Key was developed by Sokorad Sakranowski. It was basically, if you look at Chinese arts, they do Qi. Japanese arts do Ki. You'll see a lot of times in the body conditioning of Kote Kikai and stuff, the body training and mindset and everything. But it's like comparing a garden hose to a fireman's hose. They do the same thing, but you can't put out a house fire with a garden hose. So what you're doing is bringing all of this energy, because the body can take up to something like 16 pints of air, but we generally only breathe with, like 4 pints at most. So what you're doing is you're increasing your airflow into your body, and as you do, it's like when you get really excited about something, and you're really pumped up, and you're like waiting at the start line to like let's go. It's like that feeling, but it's a controlled sense, and then you start bringing your energy out, and it's the body conditioning along with the energy flow that you work. And it's people say, oh, that's bullshit. It can't be done. I can show you a light bulb and tell you there's electricity going through that. You believe that, but you don't. Most people don't believe that the body has this ability to control its energy and amp it up. And so, you know, like with my throat, it became like the fireman's hose. It became muscular and large to protect all of the energy that was coming out. And it's something that you have to train a long time with that instructor to be able to do it. It's not something he says you can go out and teach people. I was the first woman that passed the master's test because he wouldn't let women do it for like 20 years because when he was first developing it and training, there was a woman that was like telling her friend, go ahead and kick me in the crotch area, and she ended up in a body cast. Yes, so it's like really understanding how to do it. You can use it for healing purposes. You can use it, it's like, you know, when they call it the word Zen, you know, the mindset that you go into, it's like that whole thing through the body. So when you raise up your arms, the one time I did it and I was doing a test, you raise up your arms, and when they kicked me on both sides in the ribs, I swear to God, it felt like they were going through water, and it was a light tap, and I was like, did y'all just kick me? You know, and I kind of haven't done it in a long time because it's very hard to walk around going, can you hit me in the throat? Can you hit me in the throat? It took me a long time to get my ex-husband to be able to hit me in the throat, because he really wasn't very good at it. But, you know, so, and what even sucks worse is when, like, they hit you in the ear and you're like, throat. So what I use it now for is a lot of times to show, like, for the choke, on how you can open up your airway and it calms yourself so that you can survive the situation. You know, because most people think once you grab somebody's throat, they're going to just start collapsing only visibly. And it's like opening up the airway and the energy, and it helps you calm yourself.
I remember years ago in self-flow, you were preparing for your second day or something. You come back in, and I think Adam Scholl, David Scott, I forget who else, maybe Steven was there, and you're dragging people across the floor by your neck, holding belts, two people, and then you were doing exercises,
Yes.
and people would just stand there like, what?
Right. But it's again because it's soft tissue. People think that it's impossible, but it's kind of like people think, you know, you do I can't do a spinning flying back kick. It's not ever going to happen. But so you find what you can do and you develop that ability. You know, and for this, it's like once you learn energy work and understanding how to create it and stuff like that. We used to do a drill for people that you have them sit down in front of you with their eyes closed, and you step up after you get your energy going, and you hold your hand by their face, and they'd be able to pick out which side, but you're not touching them. Again, that's energy, and that's the whole thing that you learn to control. Just like throwing a punch, you learn to control it, and then the body, you train with it to be able to take those blows, and the airway stays open.
Very nice. So what other martial arts? Because there's been a lot.
Oh God.
I get just with us, with Krab, with judo, Gumbo Shawn.
Yeah.
We've done that.
Love their stuff.
Yeah. Athena's been to Israel.
Yeah.
That was a good time. In fact, when we were in Israel, one of the judo coaches came up to me and he's like, that woman, the redhead. Wow, she was getting thrown higher and higher and higher. And she goes, I want more.
His stories are always so good.
Remember?
Yeah, well, I liked his class. It was fun.
Yeah.
Poor Ann had to be my partner at one point. I was like, I'm sorry. It's just when they said, okay, all you women go over here. And I was like, excuse me, what? I want the big dude over there. He's my weight. But it was, I have knocked on every door. I was always told that once you get to a certain level where you feel comfortable in your training, that's when you need to expand on your learning. And so there's so much to learn out there, because if you go up against somebody, or somebody's talking about Daito-ryu, you know, what is that system and how does that lineage go into the Aiki and Aiki-Jitsu systems?
Yeah.
You know, if you're talking about grappling, you know, are you talking about Sambo, or are you talking about BJJ? You know, understanding, wrestling. I mean, understanding all the different styles that are out there that's what's interesting to me. Because how can I apply little bits and pieces to them? Or if I'm going to go up against somebody that's training, do I recognize what they're going to do? I got kicked one time by a guy that did monkey stance. He did, I kid you not.
I was there.
No, this was back in Texas years
Okay.
ago.
Philly
Yeah,
did that.
yeah, Philly, I Philly did it too, but that was like, oh, okay, that was normal. But the guy that did it in, when I was newly training in Texas, I was like, what the hell is that? You know, and he did this monkey stance, and next thing you know, he like kicked me up in the chest, and I was like, how did you do that? I thought that was fake. I didn't think people actually did that. So it's, you know, the more you learn, the more you look with anything else.
Yes.
I'm always a student. I just have to go learn it visually. If I read it, I don't retain it.
See, I'm the opposite.
I know, you read everything.
So, okay, you learned your martial arts history, work history, because that pertains a lot to how you teach.
Yeah. My first instructor was a U.S. Marshal. And so I trained with a lot of U.S. Marshals and stuff back then. And he was the one that told me, he said, you'd be a good police dispatcher. And I was like, what? Oh, you know, and I always thought, what do you do that makes a difference in the world? You know, not that you have to be some superhero or anything, but just what you do that made a difference today. And so I got moved up here and got out of corporate accounting and started, again, knocking on doors. You know, I was like, I want to be your dispatcher. And they were like, we don't dispatch, the county does. And so I had to go find the county, and I've been there 24 years. And a lot of it, you know, because I'm a 911 operator and a police dispatcher, really is the mindset of what I use to teach with, you know, the experiences of domestic violence and the cops. I also worked in a Braxis, which is a juvenile correction facility. And I thought, you know, these are kids. Now they're anywhere from 12 to 18. So some of them I only came up like on the middle of their chest, these big dudes. And they were in there for, you know, for drugs, for, you know, running drugs, attempted murder, a couple in there for murder and stuff like that. And these were kids. But when you're dealing with them, you're thinking, oh, they can't be that bad. And somebody told me, when the cop said, treat everybody as they're guilty until they prove to you they're innocent. And that was a total change in my mindset of everything, because they were getting away with things that I couldn't catch up because they were so much better at being criminals than I was. And I was like, oh my God, you know, one girl taught me how to cut an 8-ball on the first day that she was there, and they caught it. It was, yeah. I'm serious. They were really good at being criminals, so I needed to learn to catch up to them. So again, it was a learning thing. I spent so much time asking them questions and stuff. But it was that whole tidbit of, you know, treat everybody as they're guilty until they prove to you they're not, was a totally different way of looking at everything. So when you walk in some place and you think, I'm not comfortable, you know, why am I not comfortable? And then just go with it, you know? So I did that, and the 911, for what you hear from people is, and then sending the cops in to see how they deal with it.
Well, you're also, you had something to do with the Lancaster shooting, the
Yeah.
school shooting.
Yeah, the school shooting. I was one of the dispatchers on scene because I'm familiar with the Amish, because I've had some friends that were Amish and, you know, been around them quite a bit. So I remember it was kind of surreal because I was watching it on TV. I was at work, I was in the warrants division, and watching it on TV. And they said, okay, we need 2 people to go out there. So another guy and I took the big rig out there, and we set up the dispatch console for, you know, them. And it was weird because when I got there, where we were parked and looking out the window, was the exact picture that I'd been looking at on the TV. Yeah, it was very surreal. And you know, you could feel the anguish of everybody there, but you couldn't do anything for them. You just had to do your job and be there. And it's kind of like that, again, the mindset. It's like when we're taking 911 calls, you can't say, you know, oh, you're getting beat up, just keep him right there, I'll be right over and beat the son of a bitch up. You know, you want to, but you can't. So you have to keep a calm voice and a calm mind of what is next. And that's what, you know, I put in training too.
You're also part of the security detail. In Texas?
No, we taught people how not to break people.
Okay.
Yeah. We taught bodyguards how not to break people, and so I get to play the principal or, you know, teach them, you know. It was fun.
So we work with some police departments doing simulations training. And some of the best situation scenarios where we're a domestic.
Picture that.
And sometimes it's supposed to be me getting arrested. It's never happened once. Because I'm able to push our buttons, and suddenly you see two poor police officers fighting for their lives while they're trying to handcuff little Miss Athena. And I feel bad for them a lot of times. Well, best domestic ever.
Don't make me laugh.
Which one?
The whole
Well, you
camera
let me
shakes.
do it, Jim.
Which one?
Yeah.
Like there was one
He
where
gives me the nod where he's like, yeah, go ahead.
there were a
do
couple
it.
times where I was supposed to draw a weapon and shoot. And I was like, I can't. I feel bad for these guys. Look at them. I feel so bad for them.
Well, they threw me over the table,
They
over
broke
the
the
chair. Yeah, they broke the table. Well, and then they got my hip joint stuck on the chair, and I could the pelvic bone, and I couldn't get up. And they were like still trying to, and they were going to give up. And I was like, no, you're almost there. Don't give up.
She's encouraging me. No, don't stop. You're doing good. You're doing fine. Keep it up.
Yeah.
But some of the training stories that we had. Well, we got invited to the air marshals because we were working with them, and we got to train this guy Steve Tornay,
Yeah.
who's a knife and karate instructor.
Yeah.
And it was really cool and a lot of fun. And somehow during the training, air marshal went into a window and broke it. And the thing is like, Tina was his partner. And she goes, oh, was that already broken? And he's like, no, it wasn't already broken. She's like, oh, I'm sorry. Oh.
Well, he's an asshole.
But it's funny because a lot of the stories, even here, you're very unassuming. You would see Athena, you think, oh, somebody made cookies today, or look, oh. And then suddenly it's like, what the hell just happened? And she's able to change a lot too. She's able to go from haha to and I think that's great because you are very unassuming.
Yeah.
And then you get your hands on somebody, and then it's like, I've never seen a grown man pick up ice vegetables before. Wow, like it's
Right.
it's
But
suddenly
it's mindset. It's mindset of, once I go hands on, it's game on. And then my mindset, you know my phrase that I always think once I get a hold of somebody or I'm going into the fight, because you have to be, it changes the whole process. It's like the difference between riding your bicycle or driving NASCAR. It's like you're completely aware of your surroundings, who's a threat, who's around you, and it's a total different change. So we're fine. If we're standing here talking and we're not having a problem, that's totally fine. But the minute I feel threatened or have to do something, it's a total switch in my head because that person is no longer okay. And it's a threat of either me or somebody else, and how am I going to deal with it? Because, when you're getting the shit kicked out of you, and you realize that nobody's actually going to come to your help, I'm talking about not even in training, but actually on the street, and you realize, that nobody's going to come to your assistance, or that this just happened and nobody was there. Maybe there was nobody to be there. You just put yourself in a bad situation. All of a sudden, you're like, holy crap. And that's why you have to train so that you're always aware. It's like I always say, cops go into buildings and they're prepared for that. They don't know what they're going to get. They don't know who they're going to see. But that's that switch on when they go in. And it's that whole mindset that you do, and you get in training. Everybody develops it at some point.
I love the fact that you use experiences of what you see or talk through, that you use that when you teach.
Yeah.
You use like, look, this actually happened. Something like this happened.
Right.
Let's go through it.
Right. Because it's like, people always say, what got you into doing martial arts? And I always tell them about getting, mugged with a kid with a gun. I was literally 19, and I saw them. The kids were driving. We came out of the grocery store, and I had 102 fever. I was so sick. And my friend, she had like $300 in her purse, and she was going to Padre Island the next day. And we saw two kids, and my car was parked on the lot where I wasn't supposed to park as an employee, sort of thing. Yeah. And so anyway, but we saw these kids, and I said, oh, you look great. She's teaching his little brother how to drive, because that's what my brother did. No threat whatsoever. They were kids again. Next thing you know, I get up to my car, and all of a sudden there's a gun in my arm. And he said something, and it was like something about give me your purse. I couldn't hear him because I was so sick. Then I go, what? And he said it again, and then I go, and then I was like, are you kidding me? And because he was only up to here, he was about 12. And he had his arm around my back and all this stuff, and he grabbed my purse, and he shoves the gun up in my head, and he goes, give me your purse or I'm going to shoot you. And my friend Rach is screaming over there going, give him your purse. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he comes around the back side, takes it off and with it. And I remember it hit my hand. I grabbed the handle thinking, what are you doing? And, and people always say, oh my God, if you knew then what you knew now, you'd kill him. And I said, no, if I knew then what I knew now, I would not be in that situation. I would have recognized it. And that's the whole thing about training, is that, I don't, like I said, I don't learn from books, but if I can tell a story that I can actually say this is what happened, then I can work through the whole scenario with people.
So this is why she's going to be doing Athena's greatest hits, as we're saying. I think of like Bruce Springsteen on Broadway holds a lot of strike hits.
Yeah,
Little
we probably
story,
did it.
technique, little story. What's your philosophy on teaching?
I think it's a little bit of, I look back again, where I started at, I was so bad and uncoordinated that it was the determination of the student. It's like if I can show them how they got a little bit better today than they were yesterday, and just show them increments and meet them where they're at and show them how to get better and what they do. It's like not saying you're going to look at this, fighter that's been training for 10 years and say you're going to be like him, but just by meeting them where they're at and saying, you've got a good punch, you've got a good kick, you've got great intuition, and working on that is helping them develop what they're good at. And then they can add that rest of the tools in, because once they feel confident in what they can do, they can build on that. But it wasn't until, I remember my instructor, I used to do break falls, forward flips, and I sucked at it. I couldn't do it. I just roll on the floor. And at one day one of the instructors said, do it. And at that moment, I was like, I was going to do it and die, and I was prepared to snap my neck if it needed to be, or do it and live. And I got up, I did it. It wasn't pretty. I slammed my heels and all this stuff, but I would have felt like Rocky when I got up. I was like, I was like, I actually did it. And from that point, he goes, I knew you could. And that's what I always look to find in people. I know you can, and let me help you find it. And that's the biggest thing is letting them recognize what they are good at and build on that.
Okay, that's great. And I don't understand why more people don't have that philosophy. I understand.
I think they just don't, like some people that started out so good, I know some people that started out so good, they just don't relate to people that at different levels, because they started out in something that they were already a fish to water in, and they think, oh, isn't this easy? And they were young enough that they could, or agile enough to do it, muscular enough to pull it off. And so they don't understand how some people, can't do what they can do. And it's like when I always say, when I'm watching a guy train a female or a smaller person, is that applicable? Can they reproduce that movement? Is that applicable to their gender or their size? And I don't train anybody by gender. I train them by their ability. That's the biggest thing that I learned, is that I don't care if you're male, female, or whatever, your age, whatever you bring to the table, it's your ability that I want to train with.
Hey, I want to say hi to James Hollywood Whitaker, who's watching. Congratulations on your fight.
That's awesome!
First round TKO.
Sherpa! Sherpa.
You're being... Explain that story.
Oh.
You're being in Delaware fighting, I think, soon. Jimmy, send me dates when you're in Delaware.
That would be so awesome. Jimmy is my Sherpa, because when we went to Israel, and we had to climb the mountain, Mount Masad. Anyway, I get excited. It was, I've had 4 knee surgeries, and it was brutal. I didn't expect it to be so big. I expected half. And I was really trying to beat Ernie up the mountain. As anybody that knows us knows why. It's just one of those things. And
My 2 kids.
it's 2 kids. And so anyway, we got up there, and I was way ahead of him because he stopped to take pictures and stuff, like this whole wedding thing for him, you know. But so I got to the last quarter of the mountain, and I had trouble with my knees, and I was having to use the rail to pull up. And Jimmy had already run it. What? Jimmy,
Twice, maybe 3
no,
times.
once. I think he did it like 17 minutes or something crazy. You're gonna have to tell me the minutes again. But he ran it like crazy. So anyway, he was kind enough to hold my hand and get me steady off the rail so my body aligned going up. And he would actually let me brace on him so that I could get up the stairs. And so, which is like what a Sherpa does. They get you up
Oh,
the mountain.
Jimmy.
And he is golden to me. He has the heart of just, you know, the sweetest person I know. And he could have just looked at me and said, you know, get yourself up the mountain. But he stopped and came back and helped me. So he's my Sherpa. He's golden.
Aw. And I have a message from Neil. My first session with Athena, she threatened to beat the shit out of me if I didn't hit her hard.
That's true. The reason why is because we all think that when we're hitting somebody, we're hitting them harder than we actually are. And so it's kind of like, I always look at it as training, is if I'm training with somebody, I want to be able to communicate to them. And if it's somebody that, you know, has never trained before, I want to let them know that they can do harder. It's like, it's just that open communication with your training partner of, you know, meet me where at a good place. You know, it's kind of one of those things. That's what we train for. Every time we train, we want to train a little bit harder. You know, that's how we increase. If I don't go home and I'm not hurting, then I feel like I didn't push my body enough. No, it's true. I mean, it's true because it's like I used to, when I first started training years ago, I would have my whole forearms would be black and blue. I could barely breathe because my ribs hurt so bad. And because the break falls were hard. And it was one of those things you're using the hard tatami. It's not the big cushy pillows that you're using and stuff. And it was body conditioning. And so I remember, you know, having to like literally just drag myself out of bed and take as much Advil as I could. And people were like, you pay for this? And I was like, yes. But as it went, I got better and better and better. And I don't bruise any, you know, like that anymore. I don't stick my face out as much, you know, to get hit. It's that whole learning curve. But we are training in a physically violent system. Or, you know, it's like if I was going to do Zumba, you know, that would be different. It would be conditioning.
I paid money for
But the thing is, though, is, I did that once too. But I tried to keep the person in the head in front of me. I was using it as a target.
I do that too. I do it all the time.
I know. But the thing is, though, is it's that conditioning that you do of, you know, like if I'm training with somebody, let's go as hard as we can to each person's perspective, and then, you know, for 5 of them, and then bring it back down for 5. You know, we don't have to go hard the whole time, but I want to increase what I did from last time. It's like runners, where runners do, you know, they do a mile and then they do 2 miles. Same thing with body conditioning.
Let's talk about women's self-protection.
Mhm.
Because that's, you know, what you started, or what you
Yeah.
started teaching here,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Yep.
And grew. So tell
It's
us about your philosophy. Tell us about it.
I love the phrase, what's the difference between protection compared to defense, you know? And self-defense is what you do after. Self-protection is what you do before. So you get in a car, you lock your doors. Why? There's no zombies attacking you at that moment, but you do it anyway. And at that moment. But that's the whole thing, is your preparedness for anything that comes at you. And I always want people to understand, you walk around with your number one weapon at all time. Nobody can take this away from you, is your awareness. You may not be using it, you may, you know, be not paying attention on your phone or something, but it is your number one weapon. And that is what everybody carries, they just don't use, and they're not taught to utilize it. Because we're taught to be in a safe, polite society. We're conditioned to be polite, especially for women. As we get older, we become the caregivers of society, so we reach out our hand to caress or protect or to swat a butt. But you think about it, when we're little kids, they tell you, when you go to the street corner, look both ways. Why? Because there might be danger. It might be a bicyclist coming, it might be a car, it might be a dump truck, but you're ready for it. Where do we lose that? At what age do we quit doing that for everything? And that's what I want people to walk away with, is knowing that. Sometimes it was, people that had been attacked, people that had been attacked many, many times and, molested over a period of time in their life by people and stuff like that. And I wanted to help them get to the other side of that. Because every time, there's an attack, it plays over in your head over and over and over and over, and that sets you up for how you go through your days. That sets you up for how you see the world. And I wanted to give them a place that they could train, that they were safe, and to get onto the other side of that. A lot of times, if I was doing a 6-week seminar and I had a woman that had been attacked or something, I always say, you play this over in your head every single day. I said, go home. Now that we've done this training, go home and play it over in your head, but win. And then when they came back, because I already knew the scenario when they first started the class, I already knew what they were battling and stuff. But when at the end of the class, when we would fight it out, it was, to them, that was fighting. It was going back and fighting. And it was one of those things that I wanted them to get to the other side, and that's what they needed. It was, everybody always says it's very cathartic and processing for them and stuff. And I think that was the one thing I could give people.
Well, in the book, Consistent Winning, we talk about the mind doesn't know the difference between reality and fantasy.
Yeah.
When you go through things in your head, you're more likely to respond, more likely to respond correctly.
Yeah.
And then even if you go back to Zen and martial arts,
Yes.
by Joe Williams,
Yeah.
he was having a discussion with Bronx and Hong,
Mm-hmm.
and he said he had a fear of tigers.
Yeah.
A big fear because he grew up in Korea, and that he would imagine him having to fight a tiger, and he didn't always win, but it took away the fear
Yes.
because he thinking about it, like,
Right.
what would happen, how
And
tactic, strategy,
And you feel helpless. And I've talked to many people that, when they get triggered, I always found out that it was like, if it was their self, what happened to them, their trigger response is hot. And I had a lady on 911 one time that I was talking to her, and she got triggered by somebody at the door. And she was expecting her husband home, and somebody else showed up at the door, and all this stuff. And I kept her on the phone until the cops got there and made sure she was safe. But she'd been triggered. And she says, I'm sorry, this is, I recognize that it's due to something that happened years ago. She had seen it happen. She saw somebody get shot and killed right, like, from me as close to the wall. And I asked her, I said, I said, it's okay if you get that hot feeling. She goes, no, I get completely cold. And I was like, so everybody has to recognize that nothing is going to be a textbook. And that's what I always wanted to give people, as a safe place to try it. To find, if you can get your mind to believe it, you can achieve it.
yeah,
And that's the biggest thing. Again, the mindset. The mind can do so much.
that's why it's first.
Yeah.
Mindset, tactics, principles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's got to be, and you don't even realize how much your mindset changes in the time of training. Because again, we're doing something that's violent, and you walk in the door and you go, ooh, but you've already gotten, if you walked in the door, you've already done the first step for your mindset. You've already done that, willing to go to that direction. And that's what's cool. So once you get there, how can we help you finish your path? And then recognizing that if we do have people that get triggered, and many times a lot of the students come in and they're carrying baggage that you don't, and they're carrying baggage with them that you don't know. Because I say that the PTSD is baggage. It's something you have not let go because you cannot complete the picture of it. You haven't got a resolution that you're happy with to it. And so sometimes it's when they get triggered, how can we help them get past it? There was a guy that came in, and I noticed his movements were strange. It was really strange, and come to find out, he says he deals with PTSD all the time, like he lives in a state of PTSD, but it's in a state of rage. So he came in to train so that he could get rid of it. And I was like, oh, honey, that doesn't work. Your training only is fuel on the fire because you're not letting it go. So I sent him home with exercises. He was married. I sent him home with exercises of soft touch with his wife, and he had to control his soft touch. And he said that helped him tremendously. So it was kind of cool.
If you have any questions for Athena, please send them. Reach out. I see all you guys watching. Quite a few, by the way. Not that we can know this. So let's talk some other Athena stories. Athena, in fact, Paul Andrew Smith devotes a chapter,
Not a chapter.
pretty much a chapter,
No,
to
from
Athena.
a page.
The chapter I think is entitled.
Sticks, Stephen, and
Yeah. And
And
talking
again,
about,
that's a story that always gets better retelling every time.
talked about being unassuming. I'd gone to England and taught, and Paul Andrew Smith, who was a police officer in England, brought 3 of his instructors
Yeah.
from England to the US to come train with me for a week.
Young, scrappy kids.
And the one got punchy. I felt bad for punchy. Because you bruised him everywhere.
Well, he was little.
Not punchy. So
I mean, compared to
so
me, outrageous.
we're all grappling one day. I think we were doing like a jiu-jitsu class or just rolling. And Paul was out. And Athena walks in and is like, hi. Oh, do you want to wrestle? And Paul's like, yeah, it's probably a new person. This person doesn't know what's going on.
Or he actually told me to wrestle him.
She's like, wrestle? So Paul had done jiu-jitsu. He fought MMA. He's a taekwondo champion, all this other stuff. They start grappling, and Paul's like, yeah, I could have put her in something, and she fish hooks it. And Paul's like, oh shit, she's doing it, we get rid of that. And he's like, tried to armbar, and she like grabbed my eye. And then, he's like, because at one point I had her, and I feel her hand go up under my cup and grabs. And he's like, whoa! You can't do that in jiu-jitsu. And she goes, oh honey, we ain't doing jiu-jitsu, we're wrestling.
There are no rules in a fight.
And so Paul, like that changed the way he thought based on that.
Yeah.
You were a instigator for change.
Well, the thing is, though, is again, it goes to the polite society. When we train, there's rules. It's like, that time when we were somewhere and Randy Kadura said, oh, there's rules in this. And I was like, I don't know, can I get a list of those? And so it was one of those things where if you're doing a sport, there's rules.
Yeah.
But I don't go out and do sport. I need to train to be able to do something if it actually happens to me at any time. So I need to be able to understand what I can do to survive this. So I'm looking for things that, will work for me. Because I'm not I've had 4 knee surgeries, I'm slow. Anybody knows me knows I don't run. If I run, there's a problem. But it's one of those things. No, I think the only time I ran was the time we thought Jimmy was passed out up there. And I was like, and I was running, I was like, look at me, I'm running. Oh my God, I'm not the last gazelle. But the whole thing is reality-based training. I mean, I take everything in training with the techniques and the tools and stuff, but I know what I'm good at and I know what I'm not. Grappling is one I've never been good at. I don't have the upper body strength for it. I just don't. And I'm good at checkers, not chess. And, grappling is such a chess game because you got to figure out, can you get to there and can you move? And is it worth the movement and stuff? So I just look at it and say, what do I have that'll work? So I always look for weak points, something that's soft or movable, and I want to test them on everybody. I'm not going to tell you that's coming,
So I have a couple people. Brittany Wolf. Brittany said,
Do you remember Brittany? Brittany was, correct me if I'm wrong, Brittany, but I believe you were Air Force, and she came in to train.
Oh,
Really
yeah.
pretty, blonde hair, tattoos. And she says it's been a long time since she's done Krav with Athena. I just love you. You helped me mentally and physically when you taught a class. I loved my Krav family there.
Oh,
We miss you,
Miss
Brittany.
you.
We miss you.
That's awesome.
Mr. Jason says, Ernie, what's your favorite way to push Athena's buttons.
Jason.
There's a number of ways. Like this works. Just saying Athena. All I have to do is say Athena and I can push her buttons. Calling her different names. Different people's names. That did it. That got her arrested. Scenario. Police officers.
Yes.
But there's a lot. We know that. That's a whole nother talk. And then Alex W. You're only bad at grappling because you haven't learned how to cheat without anyone realizing. I know Alex, she cheats and it's like, hey, look at this! I'm cheating. It could also
Well,
be
also because
the
they start
person's screaming. Yes.
Yeah, and that's a giveaway. You know, it's like you learn not to scream.
Just ask Carl. So, any other questions, please send them out. How about you? Do you have any particular stories or things you want to talk about?
Now, I think that so much of training is about what you look back on, that you say, hey, this works or this didn't work, you know, or I wish I'd done this a little differently. A lot of the stuff, you know, you get your teeth buzzed out and you go, wow, I wish I hadn't done that day.
Or you get your orbital fracture, you're like, that was really good.
Yeah.
That's a teaching experience right there.
Of what not to do.
No, that works.
Yeah.
Darn. I'm right at the top of the list.
But it's like, you know, I had a guy that was doing a figure 4 on my arm one time and I reached down and grabbed his nuts. Well, that sends the hips up. And when you do that, that cranks the arm. So I had to grab him and twist and go really slowly. Mm-hmm. You know, but that was one of those things, okay, don't do that. You know, it's like, so then from that, I learned where else could I go? If he's up high, I'm going to go low. Now that's not going to work. What else am I going to utilize? And I think that that's the best thing. They always say your training partner gives you the greatest gift they have, themselves. And you want to give it back in that same condition, but you also want to be better, for you and your partner to be better than when you started. And that's the thing that I always train for, is that, you know, what did I learn today on it? And there's some days I come in and go, man, I leave here and I go, I really suck. And then I, you know, leave some days and go, yeah, I feel like Rocky, you know, that sort of thing. But it's like somebody says in training, with everything, it's the grind. You're not going to be good every day, and nobody is ever going to friggin' attack you when you feel good.
Yes.
102 fever, you know, and you don't sit there and go, you know what, they don't go, is Tuesday at 3 o'clock better for you? Because I can come back. It's always when you're just totally messed up. So, you know, whether or not, because you don't feel good, you've been drinking, whatever it is, and that's why your awareness is what I learned is the weapon that I always have, you know, and that's the biggest thing that I want people to be able to take away from, is that's why I was doing the classes. Who's standing there behind you, you know, with what colors their shoes? Where's in the room? Where's the person with the red shoes? You know, out the window. How many cars are out there in front? You know, or how many trucks are out there? Stuff like that.
Is that what you were saying to the federal air marshal when you told something like that?
No, it's just amazing. Yeah, a lot of times because of training, like you say, because I'm unassuming or I look how I look, that people always think, I got stuck with her. You know, so they...
See, I enjoy that.
Yeah.
Because people look at me and they're like, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
But then when they try to outman you, or, you know, yeah, you're going to have to give them a little respect there. You know, that's it. And I think that's, once you fix that, and they have that appreciation, then you can go on from there. You know, and if they don't, then they get another consequence. That's all.
Jeff Crow said he's late to the party, but glad to be here.
Hey, Jeff.
So there's a lot of people watching. Like, look at the list.
Oh, well.
Not to make you nervous or anything, but there's the one time where I thought I broke a feet. It wasn't anything physical. It was during your black belt test. The first night. first, like, couple hours of at least a 2-day test. At least. And
It's all a blur.
you were walking in a circle, talking to yourself. And it was amazing. I was like, uh-oh. I was like, I think I've gone too far. I've broke her. Because I was asking you questions.
About this and who was this and who was that. And in my head, all I could think of was keeping it all piled in. And that was the biggest thing, was I didn't want it to all fall out and just, you know, be asked on point something and be like not have an answer for it. So I had a whole little rundown of you know.
I know. I saw your notes.
Oh yeah, I hate
I'd
you.
see your notes.
He steals
So
your notes
I
before you do
knew.
them.
I knew what to ask you. The switchboard got overloaded.
Right.
I
And it was funny
I
because
was like, I gotta bring her back. Okay.
because in the training and everything was fine, and you made me because I jammed my thumb, I couldn't make a fist, and so you gave me that glove, and so I was like hitting the same way over and over and over before you gave me the glove because I couldn't. Somebody busted my thumb and it's all crooked, and so I couldn't punch. And you were like, so you gave me the glove, and then that made it even worse because I just wanted to hit him harder. And then it was Big Dave. I went to throw him into Tomanagi, and I thought in the middle of it, and Dave is what, 6'2", 260 or so?
Easily. 275. Easily.
And so I went to throw him, and I thought, oh my gosh, I don't think because in your training, you get to a point where you can split your mind and your body at the same time. And so I remember pulling him up, thinking, I've got him on 1 foot above me, and I'm thinking, oh, I don't know if he knows his throw. I don't want to hurt him. And I laid him down so that he didn't hurt, and you started screaming at me. And I was like, you're like, that doesn't count. Do it again. Da, da, da. And I looked at him like, I'm so sorry. And I just had to launch him over.
And he was fine.
And he was fine, but I didn't know if he knew that. And that was so.
He and I had already talked. He knew what was going on.
Yeah.
So
Just dropped my butt to the floor. And then afterwards, oh, you've never had that? No. I trust you, Athena, but no.
but the best was, so here's a woman who started training Krav Maga when I first started with her in 1996, 97. And never tested for black belt. And getting ready to test with Greta, another one. And Greta and I were laughing because we were doing review sessions. And Athena had the curriculum and a notebook. And she would have been better off highlighting the things she didn't have questions about. Like yellow belt questions. All this. And I'm like, you're like, I just want to be sure. I want to be sure. I want to know. How about this? How about that? How about... And we spent hours going through everything.
Okay, I get a little stressed out sometimes. You know?
So do I. I'm the same way.
Yeah, how many hours do we spend training for your black belt? Yeah, over and over and
I
over.
remember my brown belt test was so much easier than I thought it was.
Yeah.
I flew out to LA because I would get a group of people together. We had everything from the big air marshal
Yeah.
to
Remember Guy?
Guy, and Jay,
Yes.
and all these guys. And I would say, okay, I need you guys to attack long gun, knife. And then each week it would get smaller and smaller and smaller. Athena was the hardest person to do stuff on because she wouldn't give it to you. She'd make you work for it. And she'd say, no, do it right, do it right, do it right. And I remember doing my brown belt test in LA with this group. Whoever my partner was, I remember he had a long nose on. I did. I go, oh my God, that was so easy. Well, this is going to be okay. And it was just, my training was harder than the test.
Oh yeah.
And a couple of people have said that with our training. Like they're like, oh, I thought it would be much harder. And it was like, no, you train hard, so
Yes.
the test isn't as hard.
Yes. Yes.
It's like boxing. You're going to fight a 5-round fight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is how we're going to train for it.
Right.
You're going to train 10, 15 rounds. You're going to train.
You're going to train harder than you're ever going to
Yes.
need to. And that's the biggest thing is, I mean, look at how many times Ann went through the black belt testings and
Yeah.
stuff. And it was like,
How many times just for black belt?
3.
yeah,
3 black belt.
three, you know? And it was just, it's the doing it is fine because once you, it's like start your engine and go. But it's the whole thought of that, it's being, are you good enough? Even though you do it all the time, it's, again, your mind goes against you.
Yeah.
And it's, it can be so shut down by an injury or something like that because you don't want to, like for me, I didn't want to do the same thing. I didn't want to punch the same way because I couldn't make a fist. So, like one of my partners, every time I got a hold of him, his head went down. So it was on the back of the neck. Does it work? Yes. And did it not hurt my hand? Yes. But that whole thing of you train harder than you ever will before that test. But that test is what you've got to push past for yourself. It's like when people say, "Well, I don't want to test," and I always tell them, it's simply to recognize how far you've gotten.
Yes.
You know?
I don't care about belt levels, but a test is you see. So for a student, it shows you what you need to work on.
Yeah.
As an instructor, it shows us what we need to work on.
Yes.
Because and testing is so much important because it's stress.
Right.
I remember I used to fly to LA all the time. I remember I did maybe yellow or orange belt like 4 times. Like, I should not, here I am. I remember after that first time where I already passed,
Yeah.
everything else was just a workout.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have that emotional stress attached to it.
Oh,
So
wow.
everyone's test is always the hardest test.
Yeah.
You can't argue with, no, my test was harder.
And most of the time people come out of that test, most of the time they'll come out and go, man, I sucked. I don't know if I passed.
You have an emotional attachment to your test.
Yeah.
And that's so true. And
Right. Because everybody thinks that you're grading them, but actually they're checking out themselves of whether or not they can do something.
Yeah.
It's not. It's weird how we do that. We think, oh my God, did he pass me? And it's like actually thinking, wow, I actually could do this. I actually can do this, and that gives you a platform. You are never the belt that you test for. Always remember this. That's why, like in black belt is okuden. It means entrance to secrets. It doesn't mean, damn, you know everything. It's the first belt, and once you test for it, then you become that which you represent. It's that one of those things is once you test for brown, you become the brown belt. And nobody ever tells you that at the beginning. They think, oh, once you've tested, you've got this, you're golden and stuff. And it's like, no. Then you understand the next step. It's like grades in school. It's like you go the next year and you learn more and more, but you have to pass that year till you actually understand it and can build from it.
Jeff Crow said, I taught him, I don't think I taught you that, Jeff, but thank you. Ernie taught me that perfection is not giving up.
Yeah.
Jeff Crow, we need to do an interview with you because talk about not giving up. You're the poster boy of perseverance, Jeff. Jeff, I don't know how many tests I've seen you throw up at. Wipe off and
go
run out,
again.
and you're like, shit, wow. Or before you started getting in the shape you are. I mean, you were always in good shape, but you were skinny.
Yeah.
And you were going up with much larger, bigger people. Man, and you would just not give up. And listen, if I taught you that, then I'm very proud of myself.
Yeah.
That's how I try to train.
Yeah.
Like I always think, I don't have the raw talent a lot of people have. I just don't know when to give up.
Right.
So,
But that's all about training is. And that's what the crowd is so, pertinent to, is that you look at where it was based on and everything, like so much of it is sport. Okay, well I lost, if I lost this week, like when you're doing kickboxing, I lost it this week, I'll come back next week and do it again. Whereas the true training is survival training, is, hey, okay, so he threw up, but he came back in. It's like one of those things you get dizzy, but how do you fight through your dizziness? That's what training does. It gives you a safe place to have that fault or that problem and then get past it.
to see what you can do and not do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not only to see what you can do and not do, but it's actually to recognize the weaknesses that you have and how to get around them. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've ever learned is like, okay, I'm not going to outrun this person. I'm not going to, make 3 rounds with them. So I better do something in the second round that either hurts them or scares them enough so they leave me alone. The last round, because that's just what I need because I'm going to need a breather.
Yeah.
But that's my mindset of it is like, I'm going to do what I need to do. I always think as I want to train to my partner's level, and if they're below me, I want to keep them safe, but I want to pull them out of their shell. If they're above me, I want to try and be better than myself to give them something to work with. That's my thought.
So, we've been talking for over an hour.
Okay.
Okay. Anything to leave people with, like books. I know how much you love reading books. Any books or training tips or anything else?
I used to love that motto of that which does not kill you makes you stronger. But that's not always true, because that which does not kill you sometimes cripples you, and you have to find a different way to fight.
I agree with that also.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, it makes you stronger, and it's like, no, my hand doesn't work that way anymore, so what do I gotta use?
But that's a good thing too.
Yes, it's always about learning. You should always try. There's a phrase in Japanese philosophy, it's agatsu. You've heard that one, I say it all the time, and that was the name of my school, was agatsu, and it means personal victory over oneself. And that's what training is about, is you came in a certain way, a certain place that you were at, and every time you train, you should come out a little bit better. Even if you had a bad night, you survived it. You still did better than you were the person that you were 6 months ago or a week ago. And that is the whole thing, is how can you be better? It's like the military, be all that you can be. They don't say, hey, be all that squad can be, or that big ass dude. It's all that you can be. And that's what I want people to always find in their training. And that's what I always want to pull out of them. People say, well, I never knew I could do that. And I kind of piss them off sometimes to get them there, because I see that in you. And I'm there, and I want to be that person that helps you go there and break that mold and get into it.
Sandra, our other favorite redhead,
Hey, Sandra.
said, I really need to see this today.
I love you.
And Melissa Baxter says, I love that motto.
Oh, thanks.
Glenn says he loves you so much.
I do. I love Glenn.
You remember when Glenn took the picture of you when you were in the hospital?
I just remember that.
I have to keep this steady.
So wait. So we're in the hospital. We go to visit Athena.
I was in the hospital for a week.
And she had tubes in it all. Like tubes. And I've never seen someone move that fast from a hospital bed. It was like a horror movie. She reached out to Glenn. I've never seen Glenn move that fast. He was like in the hallway, and I was like, oh my god. Because he took a picture of you in the hospital.
Yes, no makeup, no hair done. It was not pretty.
So pretty.
Yeah.
Love you, Glenn. Love you. Guys, don't forget, Athena will be teaching a seminar. November 7th, 12 to 3 p.m. Athena's Greatest Hits.
It's going to be a lot of outside the box stuff. Things that you think may be simple, we'll review. Things that you have never seen, may be fun. But it's going to be a lot of just outside the box things. And I know people have asked for joint locks, so we're going to throw some joint locks in there and stuff. So it'll be fun.
Lots of fun. So if you can't make it, we're going to Zoom it. So please, if you're interested, we'll be posting information on how to watch. Guys, once again, I want to thank Miss Athena Clarkin.
Woo! Yay, Athena!
I'll do the queen wave.
Athena,
Thanks everybody for watching.
she was nervous to do this.
I hate being on TV.
So do I. I despise
Really?
this.
What do you do?
despise-
Have to get your hair fixed?
No, I despise public speaking.
I do too.
I used to have a
So
speech
why are
impediment
you doing this? Why are we doing this then?
because people want to see it.
Why?
People ask for it.
Give the fans what they want.
Look, how many people want to see you? Look at that.
Oh God.
Look. I know you can't read it because you're not wearing your glasses.
We need to
Look
turn this off so
at
we
all
can
of
get
you.
hit now.
So, thank you all for tuning in.
Come play. Come have fun. Training is always about learning, and it should be fun.
It
And a
is.
little pain.
I can't wait. Look at all this. So, guys, oh, and by the way, Jeff Crow's going to test for black belt. So,
Oh, when?
maybe in Texas in February. We might have to fly you out
Oh,
to help
party.
out.
Party,
What do you
party.
think, Jeff? But a group of people are coming here in January to test.
Oh, fun.
You're-
I'm excited.
you're welcome. Yeah. So, thank you all. Don't forget, November 7th,
Woo.
Okay.
date with Destiny.
A date with Destiny.
I want
Thank
to
you.
let you know.
All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Well, that was close up of my forehead. So I will be posting a Facebook event. We'll be sending out emails. There'll be a link that you can register for the seminar. So if you're in the Westchester area, it is Saturday, November the 7th from 12 to 3. If you're not, we'll be streaming it live via Zoom. So once you register, I'll email you that link. And if you're interested and you are unable to watch it live or be here live, we will also be able to send out the video. So you have 3 options for learning from the great Athena Clarkin. So stay tuned for that Facebook event. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please send them to either myself or Ernie, and we will pass them along to Athena. Thank you all for hanging with us. It's been a great night. I hope you enjoyed the programming as I did, and we'll see you all on Saturday, November 7th. Have a good night, everybody.